AM radio, an op-ed column, and Fox News is not enough. I want a center-right nation to fight for its soul, and its soul is represented in the arts. Its soul is represented in a world in which media is everything. AM radio is the lowest form of communication. It's tinny, it's not robust, it's not Avatar. I want Avatar. I want the right to enter the world of media to the extent and invest in media the way that the left does.
The fake media is trying to silence us, but we will not let them, because the people know the truth. The fake media tried to stop us from going to the White House, but I'm president and they're not.
You're listening to the Curt Schilling Podcast, a Breitbart.com podcast. The podcast starts now. Here's Curt with today's headlines.
Morning, guys. Welcome to the Curt Schilling Podcast here. It's the 9th of July. Well, it's actually the second July 4th of the year. Tonight, President Trump will be announcing his SCOTUS pick. Whoever it is, the left is going to go crazy. But even funnier than that would be the fact that apparently, and I don't know if you guys have followed along, Jesse Waters used to do a piece when he'd go into college campuses. He'd ask college students, master's candidates and people at some of the best, supposedly the best universities in the nation, some of the most basic history questions. Who won the Civil War? Who fought in the Revolutionary War? And they would not know the answers to some of the most basic, some of the stuff that, all the stuff that my 16-year-old son has already learned about history. Well, I want you to listen to this soundbite as Campus Reform went to college campuses and asked them about the SCOTUS pick that had not been made yet. Listen up.
Today we're in New York City talking to students about President Trump's Supreme Court pick. The only thing is he hasn't made that pick yet. Will people still have opinions on who it was, though? Let's find out. I think the big thing that's been in the news today, Supreme Court, Justice Kennedy stepping down, so there's a vacancy. All week people were worried about who it was going to be. This week he made his announcement. What's your reaction to the justice that he nominated today?
I'm honestly not surprised by his choice, but that's just worse for us.
I just saw the pick and I was like, it's almost at a point where you kind of expect that it's not going to be what you want.
He's quite, extreme in his views, and I don't know if it would make the Supreme Court very even.
I see it all over the news that he's racist and shit.
This new nominee is very racist, and I think it's starting a new wave of something very negative, and I'm really scared about what happens in the future and what choices he'll make.
And so what reaction have you seen on social media today after the news?
Oh, outrage, as it should be.
This is just a reoccurring thing. He keeps doing this with different positions and just doing whatever he wants, abusing his power.
And do you feel like his pick is an abuse of power?
Basically, yeah.
His entire cabinet and everyone he's chosen has been the white supremacist Legion of Doom, and it's dangerous to everyone who looks like me.
And you feel like the Supreme Court nominee today kind of falls in that same line?
Of course. They should all wear white hoods and burn crosses at the Capitol, because that's exactly the move. That's what they're going for.
And the fact that he would put someone up there that is so racist and is not practicing the equality that we need to see, it's insulting, and he's not going to last.
You dumbasses. I mean, seriously, my only hope is that every one of the kids that was interviewed hears that soundbite. And that soundbite gets out and around, and more people understand just how many sheep there really are. He hasn't even named a pick yet. And these kids are peer pressured into voicing a political stance that is wrong. First of all, this isn't a cabinet appointment, all right? This is a Supreme Court justice. But, I mean, you heard it. It's like listening to CNN. It's like listening to Joy Reid and Keith Olbermann and all these other frauds on the left who continue to spew their bullshit and make up shit. Racist. He's a racist. It's not even a he. We don't even know who it is. My hope, is that tonight's announcement is of a she. And I think you all know who I mean. I am absolutely hoping that he does the right thing tonight and stays true, because Mitch McConnell has made it clear that he's a coward and then he doesn't want to fight, so he wants a justice that is, well, much more center. And in my opinion, the justice needs to be a constitutionalist. I don't care what side he falls on. If he follows the letters of the law and the Constitution, then that's what I want. Moving on to, I've been asked a couple times in the last week or two about running. I had mentioned a couple years back, well, last year, year and a half, I had some serious interest in potentially running against Elizabeth Warren. My dream would be to get on stage with this woman and have an honest debate, which she would never do. In doing so, I began to recognize at the time of the primaries when President Trump became the candidate, the rules had changed. Well, the rules had gone away. There were no more rules from a media's perspective. They were allowed to say and do anything they want about any candidate they wanted, their families. The things that were said about Barron Trump and Melania Trump and the Trump children were beyond anything we've ever seen, and basically trying to ruin families. And so, in my mind, it became not whether I want to, because I can handle them. The media doesn't bother me. I know who they are and what they are, and they know who they are and what they are, and that's part of the work today is calling them out on the things that they do. But in looking at that and understanding what you put your family through, it made it kind of easy for me to walk away from. And no better case of that than, if you haven't followed this, there's a story out about, I guess Jim Jordan, Representative Jim Jordan, was a wrestling coach at Ohio State. Apparently, some former Ohio State wrestlers say that he knew of sexual abuse by the team doctor. Listen to this NBC Nightly News report real quick.
4 former Ohio State wrestlers tell NBC News they were sexually abused by a team doctor. Molested by Dr. Richard Strauss, who they allege inappropriately touched athletes' genitals during routine exams and regularly showered with them in a university facility.
I mean, it's public knowledge. I mean, everyone knew within the athletic department that Doc was a serial groper at best.
Several accusers believe it was known by Republican Ohio Congressman Jim Jordan at the time, an assistant wrestling coach at the university from 1986 to 1994. Jordan denies knowing anything about the allegations before accusers spoke out this spring.
If there had been any reports of abuse, I would have reported it.
Jordan, a member of the Conservative Freedom Caucus, recently made headlines for grilling investigators in the Russia probe.
And I want to know why you won't give us what we've asked for.
Also rumored to be vying to become the next Speaker of the House.
The timing is kind of interesting. It's right after the big hearing with Mr. Rosenstein. It's right when there's all this talk about a speaker's race.
Alleged victims, some who say they still consider Jordan a friend, say his denials are hurtful and believe Jordan knew what was going on and chose to look the other way. Strauss died in 2005, but the university now investigating the claims against him. Questions remain about the possible crimes or a cover-up. Katie Beck, NBC News.
Bull. The timing is perfect. The timing is exactly what you would expect it to be. I have zero doubts in my mind Jim Jordan was not part of this. And having gotten to know Representative Jordan, I don't doubt for a second this is a guy who would have stood up and screamed to the heavens if he had even had the slightest hint of this stuff. Congressman Jordan came on Fox News and listen to what his reply was.
Your reaction first to all of this?
It's false. I mean, I never saw, never heard of, never was told about any type of abuse. If I had been, I would have dealt with it. Our coaching staff, we would have dealt with. These were our student athletes. A good coach puts the interest of his student athletes first. We would have dealt with it if we'd have known about anything that happened. If, in fact, there are victims, they deserve justice. There's an investigation going on. We're going to, I think, meet with them next week. We want the investigation to get to the truth. That's what we need here is the truth.
Now there are 5, at least 5. One Politico is saying there's 6. Where are these guys coming from?
Conversations in a locker room are a lot different than allegations of abuse or reported abuse to us. I mean, I've been around the sport of wrestling my entire life. Kids wrestling, junior high wrestling, high school wrestling, University of Wisconsin, coached at Ohio State. I got 2 boys who wrestled for the Badgers. I got 4 nephews who wrestled at Ohio State, another nephew who wrestles for Iowa. Conversations in a locker room are a lot different than people coming up and talking about abuse. No one ever reported any abuse to me. If they had, I would have dealt with it. And what bothers me the most is the guys that are saying this thing, I know they know the truth. I know they do. Dunyashi Yet, He wrestled for. We trained with these guys every day, sometimes twice a day, and for I know what they're saying. I know they know what they're saying is not accurate.
So what do you think the motivation is then?
You'd have to ask them, but I will tell you with Mike DeSabato. Mike DeSabato has a vendetta against Ohio State. He lost a licensing agreement with Ohio State. He is out to get Ohio State. He has a vendetta against our family. He was arrested just 5 months ago, threatening Chris Spielman's lawyer. And Chris Spielman, he's got all kinds of lawsuits against him. And what bothers me more than that is the fact that CNN puts him on TV 3 times in one day.
Is this not just par for the course? This is what I'm talking about. CNN puts a guy who clearly has issues, more than one issue. And this is, to me, very much like that douchebag Michael Avenatti, the lawyer for Stormy Daniels, and that idiot, and the things that he's doing and saying. He's threatening to run for president. I mean, really? You're threatening? Well, what does that mean? Are you daring us to let you run? Run and watch, make a fool out of yourself. Hey, great show today. We got Pamela Geller. Her book, Fatwa Hunted in America, is available at Amazon.com. She is the host and purveyor of the Pamela Geller Report. She is someone who is in the line of fire, very literally and quite literally in the line of fire. If you remember a while back, she did a contest in Texas, and 2 terrorists showed up to try and kill her, and they were gunned down by law-abiding, gun-toting citizens. And I mentioned this beforehand because there's a piece I want you to check out. It's not safe for work. It's not safe for your kids to see. It is, when you listen to these people, and by these people I mean progressives and liberals, talk about the concentration camp at the border. And they talk about things that they haven't seen or been exposed to, but they're being told. And you hear them talk about oppression and acceptance and all the other things. I want you to go to Breitbart.com and search Edwin Mora, M-O-R-A. There's an article that he did on a terrorist group. They're a group of herdsmen, the Fulani herdsmen in Nigeria. They are now a terrorist group. I want you to go and see the pictures of the 200-plus people that they slaughtered with machetes and firearms. Predominantly Christians. Over a 2-day period in June, they slaughtered them. And there are pictures. That is what oppression looks like. That is what, well, they look like the photos from the concentration camps in the Second World War. And again, if you have a weak stomach, don't go. Don't look at this stuff. It's beyond belief what they've done to these people, other human beings. It is absolutely, truly evil. That is what a Nazi looks like. That is what evil looks like, and that is what terror looks like. And they are the epitome of these things. And I'm in a loose tie, and I want you to and I'm not trying to compare the two, but as we watch the world sink farther and farther into the cesspool that globalists have tried to push Europe into first and then America, things are starting to affect, one affects the other. We're starting to see the stories in Europe of terrorism and migration problems happening here. And things here are happening over there. Listen to Keehind Andrews from BBC News Tonight talk about British sports stars and what they should be doing.
British sports stars should take a knee during the national anthem. After President Trump attacked NFL players who joined Colin Kaepernick's refusal to stand during the US national anthem, he sparked a wave of protest. The players stress that they are not protesting either the anthem or the flag, but racial injustice in America and their right to freedom of expression. But why not protest the flag? Racism is so deeply ingrained that it is part of the DNA of the nation. Britain is no different. The police may not kill as many black people, but is that only because they do not routinely carry guns? Every inequality of housing, employment, education, and wealth that plagues African Americans is strongly felt by black people in Britain. All of this injustice is the direct legacy of the British Empire that often made its place in the world through genocide, slavery, and colonialism. The empire produced a toxic national identity, yet many people are yearning to roll back the clock to when Britannia ruled the world. So, rather than draping themselves in the flag or tearing up during the anthem, British sports stars should take a knee or clench a fist. The flag is not a symbol of pride, but oppression. An anthem praising the monarch is not unifying, but divisive. A nation that will not deal with the realities of its racism is not one that the children of the colonies can feel part of. So, never again will I stand for the national anthem.
Move your ass to Nigeria. All right, you want to see genocide? Over the weekend of June 23rd to 24th, they've killed over 200. In the last year, the number varies between 1,750 and 6,000 women and children slaughtered. And you're talking about centuries-old crimes against humanity that were righted, wrongs that were righted. The aggressiveness with which the British Navy said about calming the oceans and stopping the slave trade, the Civil War in America, we fought those wars to get rid of those things. They're still going on in the third world. The slavery, the genocide in Africa, that's where you want to turn your anger to, not the lie that was the Black Lives Matter movement, which was founded on Colin Kaepernick's kneeling for a lie, which was Colin saying that there was a disproportionate level of violence towards black youth in this country, which is a lie. No statistic bears that out. There is no statistic to validate or back any of the data behind the disproportional violence to black youth. It's not true. So anyway, we're going to catch up with Pam Geller, the founder and owner of the Geller Report, GellerReport.com. Her new book, Fatwa Hunted in America, can be found any place you can read good books, starting at Amazon.com. We'll take a break. We'll be back with Pam in just a minute.
Breitbart News Daily with Alex Marlow.
Why did we see some of the Republican kissing of Mark Zuckerberg that was taking place?
I called it kissing the ring because I felt like every single person practically had to kiss the ring of this guy, you know, who wants to do nothing except get all those people out of office. So, you know, bizarre behavior from the Republicans.
Breitbart News Daily, weekdays at 6 a.m. Eastern on SiriusXM Patriot 125.
You're listening to the Curt Schilling Podcast. Once again, here's Curt Schilling.
Welcome back, guys. And joining me now is Pamela Geller, founder of the Geller Report, author of Fatwa Hunted in America, and someone whose life has literally been on the firing line. Her and her family have been put into situations that nobody deserves, and all for telling the truth. Pamela, first of all, God bless you. It's so good to hear your voice and see you this morning. How you doing?
I'm doing fabulous. How are you, Curt?
I'm good, and I'm sad, and I'm scared, and I want to tell you why. I just played a sound clip earlier of a group called Campus Reform walking around college campuses, asking them to comment on President Trump's SCOTUS pick. Obviously hasn't been made yet, but that didn't stop about 10 kids from talking about the fact that the candidate is racist and the candidate is all these other horrible things that don't exist because the candidate hasn't been named yet. And I say that to tie it to this. The misinformation campaign being led by progressives, by globalists on this, has started to permeate itself and infect itself into some pretty horrific stuff. And I'm referring to the Fulani herdsmen in Nigeria. And there's an article by Edwin Mora on Breitbart.com yesterday. And some of the only time I've ever seen pictures like this, Pamela, is when the old black and white photos of the concentration camps. Hundreds of bodies stacked on each other, slaughtered, mutilated, burned, hacked up, mainly Christians, women and children. And the number over the last year is about 6,000 women and children have been slaughtered by this terrorist group. And I'm listening to the BBC talk about genocide, and I'm listening to liberals in America talk about genocide of black Americans and the oppression. And you and I can agree there are going to be social injustices forever. You just can't stop that because evil exists. But the fact of the matter, the stuff they're talking about is actually happening. People are being slaughtered. Christians are being slaughtered. Men, women, and children are being slaughtered. It's happening in Africa. It's happening in other places around the world. But we seem to be, as one of the kindest, most open, accepting, loving countries in the world, we seem to be the target of everybody's ire, and I'm not sure that any of that makes any sense.
Well, it's enormous on every level. The genocide in Nigeria and spreading, of course, in Africa is jihad. The idea that it's, they try to paint it as a herdsman, or they try, or people wearing, white socks or, yellow hair. I mean, this is the one thing. This is the motive. The motive is jihad, and the jihad in Nigeria has been escalating for years now. And the horror I mean, I reported it was 200 Christians, and it was Christians who were slaughtered last week, has been virtually ignored by the NM media, which, by the way, is a war crime too. That too is just as evil. The silence surrounding this genocide is just as evil as the act itself.
I was going to say it's no different than Joseph Goebbels and Hitler's propaganda machine. They were every bit as complicit in the slaughter of millions of Jews as the SS was. They hid it. Many people didn't know about it because the media played along with the story, and that's exactly what's happening now.
You couldn't be more right. It is the template. This kind of wicked savagery is not possible without an arm, a propaganda arm, in the information battle space. And what, for me, having been, from my perch over the past 15 years, to me, what is most dangerous is the fact that at least, Breitbart, Geller Report, Jihad Watch, we have been able to report on this to our audiences. And if you cared enough, you would find us. But now you see this systematic shutdown on social media, on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube. And this is really what's scary, because I don't want to hear this nonsense about, well, they're private companies. No. Facebook is the public square. Twitter is the public square. It's like last century you had a phone number, and that's how you communicated with your phone number. This century you have an IP address, and this is how you communicate. Imagine if Ma Bell, if AT&T listened in on your conversation and it said, "Oh, sorry, we don't like what you're saying. You don't get a phone." That's what's happening now. And this idea that this is being sanctioned somehow, well, of course it's being sanctioned by the media, because they've always been dishonest. They've always been disreputable. But Walter Cronkite was never questioned. Now you have people like you and myself and the handful of brave souls who will talk about this, who are calling them out, and we are being systematically shut down. We are going to need government intervention. Now, you know me. I'm a capitalist. I'm a Randist. But I'm not looking for their money. But they have to adhere to our First Amendment rights. This is the critical issue coming forward, because all of the things that you and I talk about, it's like shouting into the wilderness, Curt. It's like shouting into the wilderness if they block our ability to communicate. What is going on in Nigeria is also going on in Central African Republic, is also going on in Kenya, the beacon, right? The beacon of democracy in Africa. No one's talking about it. And by the way, it's the same jihad against the Jews in Israel. People like to make that into a thing, like call it Palestinianism, a marketing term for Jew hatred. The objective, the cause, the mission of Palestinianism is the destruction of the Jewish state, period. But, no, it's about land. About land, Israel's as big as my pinky, and it's surrounded by ginormous Muslim lands. It has nothing to do with anything but the Jew hatred that is exhorted in the Quran, in Islamic texts and teachings. And until we're able to talk about this, it's only going to get worse. Europe is on fire. France has been on fire now for, is it 5 nights? Muslim migrant riots over an incident involving a Muslim, just like the car burnings going all the way back to 2005. And we will see in the midterm elections how stunted we have become. That's the key, and that's why they're trying to shut us down. It is the midterm elections, and then, of course, the president. But I wanted to say one thing, because you opened with how sick you were about what's happening on college and campuses, which is just a reflection. We've been reporting on it for over a decade, a reflection of the inculcation going on college campuses. And this new generation, the moronials, that's what I call them, the morons. Yeah. I mean, their brains have been marinating in this toxic ooze. My advice to everyone with college-age kids out there is don't send them. I mean, if they have a vocation, send them to a vocational school. If they want to be a doctor, okay. I mean, if they have they want to be a lawyer, okay. Yep. But other than that, you're literally delivering your children into the arms of the enemy.
I had Colonel West on last week, and we were talking. I've watched a couple of his speeches, and I've tried to take a lot of your and my conversations and stuff I've heard from him, and gone back and researched the history of Islam, and in trying to make. And thinking, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm misrepresenting what I'm reading and seeing and hearing after reading the Quran. Because after I read the Quran, a lot of things fell into place for me. All of the violence globally made sense. These people that were acting out as terrorists weren't acting out of some twisted narrative that they misconstrued. This is what the Quran tells these people to do. And if you go back to 610, when the Prophet Muhammad took his 9-year-old wife, and about 12 years later, you started to see the first invasion of Islam in Europe and the spread of Islam. And there's incident after incident, war after war, where Islam, the only way Islam took hold in Europe is through conquest. And that's the way.
The two symbols of Islam, the two official symbols of Islam, are the Quran and the sword. I mean, so it's and this idea of it, that it's misunderstood. So how is it that quote unquote, Islam is quote unquote misunderstood exactly the same way by literally hundreds of millions of Muslims? It's absurd. They think that we're morons. But I just want to say, you said you woke up this morning and you were so sad. You saw, campus reform, and don't wake up like that. And I will tell you why. Because Donald Trump is president, and every day is a gift, Curt.
Yeah, you know what?
He has exceeded my wildest expectations.
You know
and what you
Pam,
see, this visceral reaction to him, it is the hatred of the good for being the good. What you're seeing is, and it's in a way it's great because it does expose. Yeah. It does expose the left. They used to act normal. It was like that mask. They had this mask on, and you never knew what was going on behind the scenes. You didn't know what he was doing with Paula Jones or Monaco. Because he was just so fabulous, and he played the sax, and all that crap. But the fact is, they exposed themselves with this, and people living an ordinary American life. He has impacted the daily social fabric, even for those that are not involved politically. Listen, look at wildly employed, right? The number is at a record number employed. Yeah. What he's done with taking a stand with Europe, what he's done with our ally in Israel. I mean, we could tick off one tax reform, one after another. This guy is a gift from God, for goodness sake.
Over 155 million, a record number of people employed in this country. And I am going to steal Moranials, by the way, because that is perfect.
Moranials is it, man.
But Pam, it's not sadness. I think what I mean to say is, I'm frustrated. I'm frustrated because I'm working my ass off to educate myself to the hows and whys of the modern day world, and the left continues to live in the 1860s, where America was this slave trading, horrific place. I understand that history plays a very integral part in how we came to be, but I also understand that as a country, we fought a civil war to end slavery. I keep saying this. I don't know anybody that's ever owned a slave. I don't know anybody that ever was a slave, and no one on this planet does any of those things in America, a slave in America. And I get the lessons of the past, but we're watching a regression that I never thought possible. Watching black students at Michigan who are arguing for segregated dorms, and black students at Harvard who are arguing for a segregated graduation ceremony, and it's like it's so perverse in its intent. And then again, I see college kids commenting on the horrific racism exhibited by the President Trump's Supreme Court pick when that pick hasn't even been made, and it shows you the power of that liberal brainwashing that you're talking about in our education system, and it starts in grade school. The things that I'm seeing kids being handed in grade school when they teaching about religion and teaching about Islam, and nowhere is the violence and the terror that is one of the central tenets of Islam taught to our kids. And I keep arguing, Pam, the radicals in the faith are the people sitting idly by, because the Quran is a call to action, is a call to kill on behalf of the Prophet anyone that isn't a follower of Allah. Period. I'm not making that up. You can find passages in the Quran that actually say those things. There are 109 passages in the Quran that point to murder, slaughter, torture, death, mutilation, killing of anybody that doesn't convert.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's not black students. It's leftist students. This idea that the party of slavery, the Democrats, are now stumping for the very thing, that they have long extolled. I mean, if anyone really gave a fig about slavery, why doesn't anyone talk about modern-day slavery, that 20% of the population of Mauritania, for example, are blacks enslaved by Muslims? Slavery today. I mean, the idea that they stand with black leadership, Black Lives Matter, stand with CARE, a terror-tied Islamic group, unindicted co-conspirators in the largest terrorist funding trial in our nation's history, where, again, it's all the power of the misinformation. In Arabic, the word for black is abid, and abid means slave. Now, most African Americans in this country are completely unaware of that. Well, most Americans, period, are completely unaware of it. The key is this identity politics, which, by the way, I abhor. I didn't grow up with it. It's not Americanism. It's anti-Americanism. The whole idea of this country is individual rights. The whole idea is that, freedom of speech, freedom of conscience, equality for all under the law. This idea of separatism, of identity politics, whatever it is, women, immigrants, Muslim, this is a divide and escalate. And that's what we're seeing. And I'm telling you something, for a very long time, the right has been passive. The right has shrugged. You know why the left agitated and violently rioted. This goes back to the 60s. I mean, that's really, to me, the Cassius Bell was back then, 1964, the free speech movement, which was anything but. In Berkeley, they had free speech. It was really an action to seize power.
This all started in Vietnam. The Vietnam War was the beginning of this progressive liberal group of people who came out against government and all that government is bad, America's the murderers. The problem, Pam, and I got to wrap it up here, the problem right now, and Sonny Johnson said it best, conservatives, not you and I, but most conservatives are reacting and reactionary. Instead of being aggressive and taking the fight to them and putting their cards on the table and showing them and exposing them, we're reacting to the Jim Jordan news, that Jim Jordan somehow was a part of the whole thing going on at Ohio State. And the media, the CNNs of the world, are continuing to report and misreport on purpose the news.
Fake
and like
news.
you said, they're complicit. Yeah.
Fake news.
They're complicit. Hey, Pamela, the book, how's it doing? I heard it's selling. It's going great. And I'm wondering what kind of reaction you're getting.
Listen, people should read it. They should buy it for their friends and family. It's a truly American story about an American who stands in defense of freedom of speech, who was targeted multiple times for assassination right here in good old America. Thank you for having me on the show, Curt. Always a pleasure to communicate and that you allow me on your platform to get the message out. Thank you, sir.
I love you, darling. You stay safe. Keep your head down. Fatwa. Hunted in America is the book. Pamela Geller is the angel that wrote it. GellerReport.com. You can find her on a daily basis telling you things that the media won't tell you, and it's truth and it's news, and you need to hear it. Pam, thank you, hon.
Bless you, man.
Sonny's Corner with Sonny Johnson.
Everything in hip-hop is not bad. Kanye agreed with us, so let's love him today until he raps tomorrow and you turn your back. Because if you jump off when the fun of the moment is over, then you are in fact making Kanye the token he is accused of being. So please, don't do that. Don't go there.
Sonny's Corner with Sonny Johnson. Saturday from 1 to 3 p.m. East on Sirius XM Patriot 125.
We want to hear from you. Tweet the show at Garrick38. Once again, here's Curt Schilling.
Welcome back, guys. Joining me now is one of the movers and shakers here at Breitbart.com. He is Matthew Boyle. Good morning, Matt. How are you, buddy?
Hey, what's going on, Curt? How you doing, brother?
I'm excited. I'm going to play some sound for you real quick, Matt. I want you to listen to a group of college students who are being asked over the past couple days about the President SCOTUS pick. They're being asked about the pick as if it hadn't been made. Listen to their reaction to the SCOTUS pick that actually hasn't been made yet.
What's your reaction to the justice that he nominated today?
I'm honestly not surprised by his choice, but that's just worse for us.
I just saw the pick and I was like, it's almost at a point where you kind of expect that it's not going to be what you want.
He's quite, extreme in his views. and I don't know if it would make the Supreme Court very even.
I see it all over the news that like he's like racist and
This new nominee is very racist, and I think it's starting a new wave of something very negative. And I'm really scared about what happens in the future and what choices he'll make.
I mean, seriously, Matt, this is
unbelievable. He obviously hasn't picked somebody yet. So how could all of these people be reacting to President Trump's pick? I mean, it shows you how essentially ignorant they are. Look, the left has a blind hatred for Donald Trump, for Republicans, for conservative values. They don't even care what the facts are, and it also shows that they don't even know what the facts are, and they know if they're reacting to a nominee that hasn't been picked yet.
Doesn't it show you the thorough effectiveness of the liberal media as well? I mean,
it really does. I mean, their narratives about Trump, no matter how false they are, have stuck in the minds of at least some poor souls. Thank God there's a Breitbart in conservative media and in Fox and so on and so forth to go out there and at least present something different, so that people can and look, not only something different, but we're also I would argue the mainstream media. We're the mainstream media, not them, because of the fact that we represent the vast majority of Americans, as demonstrated in the last several elections.
Yeah, I agree. Hey, listen, let's talk about factual stuff. My hope is that I hear the name of Judge Dogma called tonight, Amy Barrett, who apparently acquired the nickname Judge Dogma because of Dianne Feinstein basically used her inner Yoda to say the dogma lives loudly in you. She became famous at that point. But this is a woman, first of all, she's 46 years old, which means for probably my lifetime she's on the court. She graduated from Notre Dame, clerked for Justice Scalia. She's got every credential you could want. How hard is it going to be? At the end of the day, how hard is it going to be for someone like Amy to get confirmed?
Yeah, look, Judge Barrett would be a fantastic pick for justice. So would, I think, Judge Hardiman or Judge Kavanaugh. I think all three of those ones would be fantastic picks from the president's final shortlist, and all of them would get confirmed by the Senate. It will be a battle, no matter who the president picks tonight, because the Senate Democrats are going to do everything they can to try to fight against whoever the president nominates. And because of the historic obstruction from the Senate Democrats and the very slim Republican majority. Remember, it's 50-49 right now, right? So because John McCain is sick and God bless him, but he's not coming back to the U.S. Senate because the cancer is getting so bad.
Right.
So the point is that it's 50-49 right now in the U.S. Senate, and so the Republicans can't lose a single vote, because if they lose a Republican, then the Democrats can unite against whoever the president nominates and block them from confirmation. So, and Pence's vote wouldn't break any tie at that point, because there is no possibility of a tie, because it's 50-49, not 51-49.
What about Jeff Flake?
I don't know what Senator Flake's going to do.
Yeah.
I find it hard to see Senator Flake voting against somebody who's immensely qualified, like a Judge Barrett or like a Judge Kavanaugh or like a Judge Hardiman. I mean, it would be a mistake, I think, on his part. I mean, any chance of a political future for him would be over. And it would demonstrate that if he votes against any of those, it would demonstrate that Senator Flake, in his entire career of claiming that he's a conservative, that he's that he supports originalists and so on and so forth, was a lie. So I just don't think that he will vote against them, but I think he has to vote for them.
That's going to be the problem, right? These three candidates are supremely qualified, and the only reason you could possibly vote against them is because you don't like their politics, whatever those politics may be, even though you're a supporter of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who's made her hatred of the president known above and beyond. But these people are all, and they're all, God bless them, constitutionalists, which is exactly what, in my opinion, a Supreme Court justice is supposed to be. Someone who adheres to the letter of the law and enforces the law as written, doesn't interpret and create or misrepresent what they think the law to mean. And I mean, no matter who it is tonight, it's going to be somebody with those credentials. And I'm wondering, what's tomorrow's news going to be? What's the? I think it's going to be Amy Barrett, but what's the left going to do? Because this is let's be clear. This is about abortion rights. Period. Nothing else. This is a single topic, much like the Women's March in New York for women's rights this is all about abortion and their desire and ability to have unlimited abortions on demand. And apparently everybody believes the Roe v. Wade is going to be overturned the next day, which I don't know. The way I think it's going to happen, Matt, is I think that Roe v. Wade will eventually be overturned and given back to the states. Which is where it should have been in the first place.
Yeah, look, abortion is going to be a big part of this debate. So I think also immigration will be as well. We obviously saw the Supreme Court hand down a really historic ruling in Justice Kennedy's last week, which was the upholding of President Trump's travel ban. But the point is that I think you're going to see those two issues, as well as maybe some other issues, really become a key part of the conversation. I don't know about overturning Roe v. Wade in the very near future, maybe significantly down the road, but I think that the left has way more to ride on this, that their very existence as, organizations that raise money on pushing these extremist causes from the institutional left hinge on their ability to continue to hold their untenable positions on these various issues out there. So they have a lot to ride on this. So I think you're going to see the left in hysterics, no matter who it is, on later tonight and tomorrow. And I think you're going to see the left doing everything they possibly can to derail this over the course of the next several weeks, and they may even get violent. And so I would watch for that, because their very existence rides on this. Right. I mean, the organizations like Planned Parenthood, if such time as that came down the road, that there was such a decision to, as you're talking about, throw it back to the states, they're useless, right? I mean, what's the point of Planned Parenthood as an organization at that point? Especially, I mean, they're basically a fundraising arm for the Democrat Party, but their very existence as an organization is in jeopardy right now.
Well, I think what ends up happening is every liberal in this country moves to California, New York, or Massachusetts, which would be a good.
Hey, yeah, no, that's where they should go. So, the liberals can have those. We'll take the rest. Yeah. So,
right, they can carry those.
That's how it worked in 2016. Yeah. If that's how it works at every election from here on out, I'm more than happy. They can be a regional coastal elite party. We'll take the whole country.
You're somebody that I kind of look to from a political perspective and kind of a deep thinking perspective. He names Barrett, and she gets appointed. What does this do to the midterms?
I think it supercharges the Republican base in the midterms, which is exactly what he needs to do. I think Barrett is a full throwdown culture war pick, right? Like that is proof that Trump, if he picks Barrett, he is picking somebody and he's declaring war on the left. And he's supercharging the Republican base. I think she would, more than any of the other candidates, get the Trump voter out there, that forgotten man and woman across America and the Rust Belt, the people that we saw at Trump rallies, they're going to like her the most. And not that they're not going to like the other ones, but the point is that would be a supercharged culture war pick, and I think Barrett would really, really, really energize the Republican base, and in such a way that demoralizes the left.
Well, and let me just say this, Matt, and close up with this one. That can't be true, Matt, because the left is the party of women, right? The party of women's rights and feminism. And
that's another lie of the Democrats in the left. They're built on another lie.
Right. And by the way, Matt, real quick, I don't know how closely you're following this, but the walk-away movement is gaining traction. And I think this right here is one of the reasons why. They profess to be one thing and act in complete opposite manner in everything that they do. They are the party of women. They are the party of inclusion and tolerance, and this is going to be a female candidate who is beyond qualified, and the left is going to try and destroy this woman's life.
Yeah, and I think that wakes people up, and again, it certainly it generates excitement in the base and the Republican base. And the way you beat that leftist movement in the November midterm elections is you energize the base. The story of 2018 is the rise of two movements. It's the leftist Me Too resistance-fueled Democrat Party with people like extremists like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez representing their side. And then it's the Trump voters from 2016 that delivered the White House in a commanding victory of 306 electoral votes, 30 and a half states. Hillary couldn't even win 20 states in 2016 against them. And so the question is, which movement wins? If Trump wants our movement, the movement that he represented, that he was the messenger to, fired up, then, you know, Barrett is the pick. So we'll see what happens.
Hey, Matt, always a pleasure, buddy. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yep, thanks, Curt.
Today's winners and losers. I'm gonna hand out just one winner. I'm not even going to talk about losers today. The winner today is the Trump administration and whoever the name he calls out today. And let's be clear. The party of women, the party of feminism, the party of the left is going to attempt to destroy Justice Amy Barrett and all of her credentials when she is nominated. Once again, the walkaway movement is going to be proven to be right when a woman justice supremely qualified is nominated for our Supreme Court and the left goes apoplectic and then continues or attempts to absolutely ruin this woman. God willing, she will be our next Supreme Court justice. And in our lifetimes, voting for President Trump was as important as this. This is the most important thing to happen. This will be another defining moment in his presidency. So thank you guys for tuning in today. I will see you guys tomorrow. You guys have a great day. God bless. Catch up with you tomorrow.
Breitbart News Tonight with Joel Pollack and Rebecca Mansour.
The real thing that the left is angry about is they're like, how could you allow these Russian memes? Somebody saw a meme and then they decided they had to vote for Trump. Or it must have been fake news. And by fake news, they mean conservative websites. Come on. But this is what the left thinks. Fake news. And by fake news, what they mean is shut down Breitbart.
Breitbart News Tonight. Weeknights starting at 9 p.m. East on Sirius XM Patriot 125.